Let's start with number 5. In my opinion, it would be the Moondrop Variations, which is surprisingly, Moondrop doesn't really have many tribrids. I think there's just the Variations, if I'm not mistaken, whereas CA Audio has bunches of them. It seems that, I guess there's a tribrid coming up, but it seems that Variations is really one of the only options now, or I'm totally missing something. Variations didn't hit me correctly because it's got a pronounced mid-bass tuck, which impacts a lot of my library. By the way, we're listening to Mozart right now, so we'll switch it up a little from Menace to Society, but when this gets loud, I'm going to change it. My library doesn't really fit for the Variations, though it does sound technically quite good. Partly related to the cleanliness that tucking that bass does, but I think that the way it impacts the rhythm section just doesn't fit me, but I can understand why a lot of people like it. Number 4 would be the Softears Turi. I think that's what it's called, TI. I bought that. I've since moved on from it. I thought it was great. It doesn't have the greatest profile when it comes to sub bass, mid bass, and into the mids. It's something kind of like the Dunu Falcon, but the driver sounds excellent. And it's also in a nice metal dent shell, and rationalization, I don't know, I thought it sounded great. Better than that would actually be the Softears Twilight, which I think is an excellent set. Michael Bruce from Redbus was just chatting about this like a day or two, and he was saying how awesome it is, and it is genuinely a really awesome set. It's a single dynamic driver like number 4, so if you're really a DD believer, those are two sets you really should keep your eyes on and get your ears on if you can. Number 2 would be the RSV by Softears. I can't explain enough how flawless this set is. I want to say that if it had a dynamic driver, it would be absolutely perfect. It doesn't really show itself in not having a DD except for just one genre, which you can see on the bottom left, which is hip-hop. Other than that, I'd never know that there's no DD in there. It's exceptional. It's a very, very, very good set. Number 1 would be a Moondrop, actually, with all these sets coming from the elite wing of Softears. I think that the S8 from Moondrop is absolutely special, which means that this would be the set that you would be commenting below for. And here's something, since you guys who've been watching me for many years and other reviewers that have been around for many years, one of them is Mark from Super Reviews. He's a big fan of the Supernova, as I am. I bought the Supernova right here. Pearl cap, beautiful, love it a lot. It's new and it's awesome. I think that a comparison between the Supernova and the S8, because I think the S8 is like $850. I think I checked before I did this video. So, I'm sorry, it's $699, so $700 versus the Supernova. If you're in Mark's Discord, ask him. I'd be curious because I haven't compared the two of them, but after doing this video, I thought I'm going to compare those two. I might not do a video, but that's a very interesting comparison. Go ahead and ask him. I know he's a big fan of the S8 or the 8. I don't know which one he really preferred. I prefer the S8 a lot. And I know he loves the Supernova, so there's that. It's also stunning in its quality. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love this set. Now, moving down to tech ranking. Remember, when I talk about tech ranking, I'm talking about, as I do in all videos, the subtle nuances in well-produced and mastered tracks where I can pick up subtleties like finger sliding up a fretboard, for example, D, Randy Rhoads' classical exercise, speaking of classical music like we're listening now. Left chill on a beat, Michael Jack, want to be starting. Some little things that stand out when you really know that you're getting a great playback because the transducer's done well, the crossovers, if it's multiple drivers, are done brilliantly, and the cohesiveness is perfect. When all things come together perfectly, it's got to have a good engine, the driver. You have high res techs. So I would say the order of the techs would be same as the order of my overall rankings. I would say Variations would be the first and the lowest. I would say the Turi TI would be next. I would say 3 and 2 is a tough one. Another gimme. I could switch the Twilight, the single DD, because it is very good, or the RSV, but I think I'll just keep it how it is right now. And then number 1 would be the S8. I really can't overstate how excellent that set is, and time doesn't change that. It's still absolutely excellent. I think if I were putting these in genre, like if I was listening to hip-hop, I would probably go with the Twilight and its dynamic driver, and also I would go with the S8 because it does have a great low end despite being all balanced armature, which is one of the reasons why it's on my list, and you guys know me. The S8 is not a bassy set, but it does that well. If I were doing rock, I would take the RSV, definitely, because that's a beast with rock and roll. I would also take the S8, and I would take the Twilight, because it's a DD. I could take the Turi, but I'll go with the Twilight. I believe it's significantly more affordable, so I go with that. With reggae, I would take the Twilight and the S8, and with classical, I would. This is where the variations would come in. This is similar to the Monarch. I think I said the Monarch Mark II would be good for classical. When you tuck in that mid bass, you get that real clean, kind of dry mid frequency, and we're talking about the fundamentals before you get it and start boosting in the ear gain. We get to almost exclusively harmonics. That cleaned out, cleared out area really lends itself to a perceived cleanliness in the replay, which seems to lend itself to stuff like I'm listening to right now, which would be classical music. Does that quite well. Also, the S8 would, because it's just a beast, actually, the S8 would do that well too. And the RSV would do classical too. The RSV is really, really good. I just sent mine and gave it to somebody else, but I'm probably going to grab it again just because it's a very good set. I like it a lot, but I think it really, of all the sets, it probably the RSV and the S8 go across all genres, despite being balanced armature based. They're really good. The RSV might trick you into thinking it's otherwise. It's S8 the same to some extent. So congrats to the winner of the Neon Pro $700 set, going right out to you. And again, if you're interested in the S8, you would comment below this video. You got to be a subscriber. You don't have to subscribe. I'm just saying to win, you got to. And then liking would help the algorithm, though you don't need to like it if you don't actually like the video. And one more. Number 5, variations. Number 4, Turi TI. Number 3, Twilight. Number 2, RSV. Number 1, S8. In tech ranking, essentially the same, though you could flip the Twilight or the RSV if you choose, and I would totally get it because they do seem to be close, which is interesting because one's dynamic, one's balanced armature. So there's that, and you can see the genres below. And now I'm out.